Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whichever part of the world that you're watching from. And welcome to this World Water Week's talk show, which will be all about the case of the Cuando, how we can strengthen transboundary water cooperation and governance. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today, whether you're here with us live in this room in Stockholm or whether you're watching from home, online, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Now, my name is Hadja Yacoubi. I am a former United Nations Youth Representative for the Netherlands. But above all, I'm very honored to guide you through these next 20 minutes as we'll be diving into a very important topic and also a very exemplary case study that we'll be looking deeper into. Because in this session today, we'll really explore the collaborative efforts that have been taken to strengthen transboundary water cooperation and governance in the Cuando River Basin. It's a basin that is shared by Angola, Botswana, Namibia, and Zambia. So we'll really also talk about that cooperation. Will discuss the development and integration and significance of the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan for the region and how this initiative aligns also, that is very important to say, with the topic and the theme of this year's World Water Week, Bridging Borders. I think there's no better example to link it to than that. So I'm very happy to do that today. And I'm very happy to be joined by a stellar panel of experts to help guide us through those next 20 minutes. So let me start by welcoming you to the stage, first of all. First of all, I want to say a very warm welcome to Nalucha Nganga-Ziba. You are the country director for WWF Zambia, so it's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Then also very warm welcome here on my right to Leonissah Munjoma. You are the program manager at ZAMCOM. It's good to have you here with us as well.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we are also joined by Betty Muyatwa, who is our country representative from Namibia for today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now, there's a lot for us to dive into. We have a very specific case, the case of the Cuando River Basin, that we can further dive further deeper into. But before we do, Betty, I wanted to start with you by asking you, could you help maybe in providing us some more context and information about the Cuando River? Where is it located? You know, the countries that share it, and also perhaps its link to the Zambezi would be good to know.
Thank you so much. The Cuando River Basin is located in the southern Africa and is being shared by the Republic of Angola, Botswana, Namibia, and the Republic of Zambia. And it is associated with the Zambezi River Basin because it is sharing the borders with Namibia, Botswana, Angola, and Zambia. That is now part of the sub-basin of the Zambezi River Commission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that's the context from which we'll be having this conversation. Then, Nalucha, if I can go to you, can you maybe tell us a bit more? I mentioned it in the introduction, the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan. How did the development of that sort of go? Can you talk us through that process?
Thank you very much. So in 2022, with the funding from the Dutch Post-Lottery Code, the CASA Secretariat, WWF Zambia, as well as ZAMCOM, envisaged a project known as the Dream Fund, where the focus was for stakeholder engagement, as well as national priorities for sustainable water resource management, and also environmental flows in the Cuando River Basin. So this later on culminated into a joint approval process for the countries to develop the integrated resource management plans. And this was in 2023 with a special purpose vehicle, which was then envisaged to support the implementation of the integrated water resource management plan. And what made it easy for it to be developed was that in 2020, the countries already had developed the Cuando Joint Stakeholder Group, which was used as a foundation for undertaking the development of the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan. So what WWF and the CASA Secretariat provided more was the financial as well as technical support to the member state. And then ZAMCOM, in its capacity as the River Basin Organization, convened the member states of the Cuando River. So the data was collected and analyzed and also validated through the Cuando Joint Action Group, which I mentioned, which was constituted in 2020. And the amalgamation of the country-specific reviews after the the documents. That's what led to the development of the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan,
Yeah.
which then was reviewed by the member states Council of Ministers
put
and
into place.
eventually adopted.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, thank you for sort of outlining that process for us. So that's on the development of the process. If we are to look deeper into the content of this integrated water resource management plan, is that something that you could speak to, Betty? So like sort of what the plan entails?
Nalucha is now briefed, spoke about the Cuando River Basin, the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan. The vision of it is to sustain and function on its own continuously by the year 2040. And in order to achieve this, we intend to have the securing the basic necessity and protection and persevering of the wealth of the species, the various species, and the strengthening of the governance and adaptation of the mitigation of the climate change. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we intend to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Through the plan, then indeed. So, if we look a bit more at the sort of development of that plan, I mean, the both of you spoke to that already. Leonissah, I would love to hear from you from sort of ZAMCOM's perspective. How did the development of that plan come to be, and what was ZAMCOM's sort of contribution to it as well?
Thank you, Haja. Just as Nalucha and Betty have alluded, ZAMCOM's role, it was to really do the stakeholder engagement because the Cuando River Basin is part of the 8 riparian states of the Zambezi watercourse, which is shared by 8 countries, and those 4 countries are part of the Zambezi watercourse. And we have established stakeholders coordination committees in each of the riparian states, including the 4. So our role was to engage those stakeholders for the consultation process for the development of the Cuando River Basin Integrated Plan Management Plan. And if I may speak to what it means to ZAMCOM to see this come to fruition, it's an exciting development. It's a development that attests to the fact that cooperation is real. Cooperation can happen, cooperation can be achieved, because one of our development objectives, which this plan has achieved, is that of sustainable and ecologically sound development of the watercourse resources.
Right.
For us, that is something that is exciting. And also the cooperation, the theme for this year here is all about bridging borders. And for us, we have bridged borders at sub-basin level in the Cuando. And of course, if I was to talk about the Zambezi Basin as a whole, I would go on, and
there's more to be said there as well.
Yeah,
but you're speaking very much to the very core of cooperation between countries. But also, I mean, as you said, ZAMCOM was responsible for engaging stakeholders, local communities. So in that sense, it's not even cooperation across countries, but it's also within different sort of like groups that need to be attested there. I also want to, because it's interesting to hear sort of like ZAMCOM's perspective from it. Nalucha, I mean, WWF also decided to sort of support the development of this program. What made you interested in being a part of it?
What made us interested in being a part of it is really largely anchored on our overall mission as an institution, where we are looking at stopping the degradation of the planet's natural environment and build an environment in which humans live in harmony with nature. So for us, based on the basis of our mission, that's what really led us to take on this work. And also building on the fact that the development of the integrated water resource management process was really a consultative process. And as WWF Zambia, we have been working to support the protection of the Cuando River Basin and the natural resources, the river, the wildlife, the forests, and also its near pristine status to allow for the continued preservation of the ecosystem, goods and services.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. So now, I mean, we've spoken about the plan. We heard about sort of like the development of the process. I want to ask all 3 of you this question because I'm really curious to know, now that the plan has been developed, what's next? What is going to happen? Maybe Betty, would you like to start to speak to that?
Thank you very much. Now the plan has been developed and the 4 riparian states are set to go. As we speak now, there is a planning meeting that is set to take place in Harare.
Okay.
So the riparian states are ready to go. They are ready with the implementation.
Yeah.
So it is for the riparian states to start with the implementation, because the consultative and the validation workshops and the data gathering has taken place already. So now the riparian states has to start now with the
Yeah.
implementation of what has been gathered,
Yeah.
what the data that has been validated. Now we are now going into the implementation.
Right.
Yes, because
Yeah.
we have to do the implementation of what has been gathered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, to sort of put that into practice.
Yes.
Would you?
I think I can also add to that. Yes, the riparian states are ready to go to do the implementation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a plan that we do not want to see, gathering dust, as the term goes. Nowadays, it's in the computers, so it's software, it's soft copies. But what now also we need to do and are planning to do is go on a very intensified resource mobilization. It's a huge plan
Yeah.
for 4 countries, and it has a cost. It's been costed. There are a number of options that have been given in the plan on how we can do the resource mobilization.
Right.
You're talking about a plan that is 42 million US dollars
Wow.
per year. It
Yeah.
needs that amount, and it's not small monies.
Right.
So with the discussions that have been going on here, with innovative kind of and sustainable funding opportunities, I think this is the way to go. We're going to look into that. We're going to
Yeah.
go into partnerships
Yeah.
and see how we are going to raise resources
Yeah.
so that we can implement
Right.
the short, medium, and long-term plans
Right.
that have been outlined
But
in the
definitely
plan.
a priority
Yeah.
for the time to come to focus on
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Nalucha, how would you speak to what needs to happen now that the plan has been developed?
Yes, for us as WWF, as well as the other partners, ZAMCOM and CASA, it's very key to see that the plan is implemented, but key to implementation is the financing Leonissah speaks to. Yes, the plan has been costed, and we are looking at raising not less than 5 million USD
Wow.
per year for its implementation, but also to continue to explore innovative funding strategies that could
Yeah.
be used to raise the funding,
Yeah.
but also look at other collaborations that we'll be able to bring on board.
Yeah.
Further, we are also looking at continuing to support the environmental flows assessments of the Cuando River. These and other interventions to prepare for the future investments program in order to realize the future aspiration of the member states with regards to sustainable water resource management.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. So there's enough on the table in terms of to-dos to focus further on. I want to get back to one element that was mentioned previously, which was the involvement of local community stakeholders. It was amazing to hear you speak to that at first, Leonissah. And now I want to go to you, Betty, because I want to ask, can you maybe sort of like visualize that a little bit for us? What does it look like to involve these local communities and stakeholders?
Thank you very much. The reason why we did involve the stakeholders was because those are the people that are going to be part of the implementation process.
Right.
That's why we needed their input into the data collection, and the people that were involved in the data collection, that we involved in the collecting of data were the farmers, people from the stakeholders from agriculture, education, planners, and we also did the data collection. We also involved the people who were in the field, like the agricultural farmers, the livestock farmers, the conservancies, the lodge owners, all those, because those are the people that are in the field, the people who are on the ground.
Right.
So we needed to involve them
Yeah.
to collect data from them.
Yeah.
Yes, because those are the people that we are going to involve.
Yeah.
We are going to be working with.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
and not probably just working with, but also the people that will ensure the longevity of the project, right? So when we talk about true sustainability,
Yes.
it's also, can you protect sort of the upkeep of that longevity in the long run? So it's amazing to hear. I mean, when we talk about sort of longevity and sustainability in that sense, one thing that is something that I think in the whole world, in any sector where you go, is something that is so fundamental and yet often lacking, which is the monitoring and evaluation of that implementation. I was curious in the context right now of, the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan that we're talking about. I mean, perhaps Leonissah, you can speak to that, but what will the monitoring and evaluation of it sort of look like in the aftermath?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you have said, it's very important to monitor and evaluate.
Yeah.
So we have a plan in place in terms of monitoring and evaluation. It's threefold. We have, as we have spoken already, we have these national stakeholders coordination committees, which are at ground level, at national level. So they are the ones that were responsible for coming up with the national IWRM plans at national level, like what was said, the process. So we'll go back to them. We expect them to report on progress on the ground in as far as IWRM plan implementation is concerned. And we also have a middle level a monitoring group which we call Zambezi Technical Committee. And these are the ones to which the national coordinating committees will report to, and they will report to ZAMCOM, and then we do the monitoring together with our partners.
Right.
And also going to the field, it is our hope that there will be some field work where we can do inspections to see what is going on, as well as monitoring, impact on the resources that we have developed the plan for, is to see improvement on the resources. How are the resources doing on the ground?
Managed.
So there will be that impact monitoring, analysis, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Thank
to manage
you.
that.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, Betty, is there anything you'd like to share on that and or add to when it comes to monitoring and evaluation?
Just in addition to what Leonissah has said, I think the monitoring process is already set out, as she has said. We have people on the ground. One of those people has been mentioned. Part of the NAMSC in Namibia. So yes, we are doing the reporting has to be done, as she's saying. That it is properly done. That we are just not putting up a plan that is not going to be, properly monitored. Because if it's not monitored, then we are planning to fail. So
exactly.
with the and then amount that is going to be put, and we are not doing the proper planning. I think we are not really planning to achieve something. Yes.
So that's something that you're wary of in that process.
Yes. So we need to really do proper planning so that it can be proper monitoring for the plan to be properly implemented. Yes.
Of course. That's really good to hear that you guys are on top of that. Now, I mean, when we talk about synergies and sort of things contributing to one another, I was actually curious as a final question, and I want to pose it to all three of you. Are there any sort of projects or initiatives or programs that would be supporting sort of, after you've implemented the Integrated Water Resource Management Plan, the management of the Cuando River Basin in that sense, the plan for it? I don't know, Nalucha, is that something that you'd like to speak to as a first?
Yes, so there are programs both from the non-state actors as well as from the state, the member states, in the sense that we have been working to ensure that the integrated water resource management plan, especially the activities, are also integrated into the member states' focus areas in terms of their developmental plans for water. So you will see that the plan really has a focus on building strong, resilient livelihoods for the communities along the Cuando River. And also on top of that, it's also going to support issues to do with climate sustainability overall in terms of how communities as well as governments. So all those plans are speaking to the climate plans that the countries have developed, the member states, but also some of the activities and projects that we are working on as non-state actors in the region.
That are important to take into account. That's amazing to hear. Betty?
I think Nalucha has put it very correctly that whatever we do is not outside what the rebellion states are aiming to do. Yes, so they are all in line.
Right.
Yes.
That's really good to hear that there's also that coming together there. And then finally, Leonissah?
Yeah, just to add to the fact that, the IWRM plan for the Cuando, which is a sub-basin of the Zambezi watercourse, also is linked to the bigger program that we have at as Zambezi Water Coast Commission, which is the program for integrated development and adaptation to climate change. So it's aligned to our programs as well. And we're also in the process of developing an investment plan through funding from various supporters, and it's aligned to that as well. So we do not develop programs in isolation, but they are aligned, the projects that are suggested and proposed within these plans, they are aligned to the bigger plans.
I love how you say that, indeed. It's not in isolation, it's all in connection to each other, and it all sort of taps into that, the intentionality, the aim, the very core intention that you have and that you want to carry out. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights, your expertise. I think that this is an exemplary case that, we can draw a lot of wisdom and lessons learned from, also to be applied in other sort of cases when we talk about bridging borders and working together. So thank you so much for sharing all your insights, and I want to thank everyone here for tuning in and listening in today. Thank you so much. Thank you to each and everyone for bearing with that awkward silence towards the end. We always need to wait until the live stream is cut. Some of you might probably be thinking, what is going on? Did she forget her text? Is she frozen? If it's like a live stream, you can always say my connection is bad and then just freeze, but we're in real person. No, we have 20 minutes allocated now for questions to our amazing speakers. So if anybody has a question, please do ask. And for that, I will hand over to my trusted colleague, Adina. Yeah, over here we have a question.
We'll start here. Yes, please. Good morning. I'm Renee Robbins from MIT. Can you just say a little bit about what some of the actual components of the plan are? Like what are different stakeholders expected to do or asked to do, and what are the things that are costing all of that money? Thank you.
Yeah, so the different components of the plan that we have, the plan has a resilient livelihoods component for the community. So this is the plan. So we do have a hard copy of the plan. So we do have a livelihoods component, we have a climate component, we have a governance and coordination component, as well as the sustainability component. So all those have been costed as part of the overall implementation. You can add on?
No, that's fine. Maybe Beauty can add.
There's a hard copy here too, so I would suggest that maybe if somebody wants to take a look, they can come up.
Yeah, sure. And in hindsight, we should have done a QR code so that then it's easy to just download the document. But so these 5 key priority areas were actually based off of the country-specific management plans that the countries made and developed. And so you will find that for each component, you would then have budget lines for the different activities that they see important towards indicating. So for instance, from the Namibia perspective, Namibia and Botswana, it's quite strong on the tourism side because most of the communities rely on the tourism for that. So you will find that even the budgeting was such that it then took into account aspects towards non-forest timber products that they can then also do the value addition and all those things. Fisheries is also a key component for the Namibia side and the Zambia side. So all those were basically put together, and then the countries then started looking at what is the most important thing for us overall as a basin. And so they went into their countries' groups, and then they selected like the 4 most priority areas. And then you found that there were actual commonalities amongst the countries of the things that they had prioritized. So that's how that prioritization process had been done. So the countries had also developed budgets towards those. So those are the budgets that were consolidated that actually speak to the total cost of the IWRM plan.
Thank you. Question here.
Thank you. So my name is Chair Jalo. I'm working for UNCDF, the UN Capital Development Fund.
What is
First of all, congratulations for the talk. My question is a bit a follow-up on the first one, actually. I would like to understand better the sort of infrastructure you have in this integrated water resource management, and especially if there are income-generating activities, because we were talking about financing, funding. Actually, especially if you want to crowd in private sector financing, there's a need of a mix of income-generating activities that can actually be used to, make it financial sustainable. Of course, beside the impact in the environment and social. So over to you. Thanks.
Which one of us to answer that? I think I'll let you answer this one on infrastructure.
So what we find in the Cuando Basin is that it's it's one of the few basins that are still almost pristine. About 80% of it lies in Angola, and because, of course, of the civil war, and this is when communities are basically so the economic aspects are not so much. So even when you look at the infrastructure that is there currently, there's not a lot. And that's why one of the first priority looks at livelihoods, because it looks at improving for instance, water supply, sanitation services, and this cuts across all of the four countries, yes, which is the most outstanding. So the plan actually also then looks at alternatives for financing. There's a component or section that actually speaks to that. Of course, there's overseas development assistance. There's also aspects that speak to, are we able to then look at MDBs for financing? Are we able to then also draw from the national budget for the respective countries? So there's a financing component in the plan, and this is one of the areas moving on from now that the countries are set to do. So for us, from the WWF perspective, what we want to do is have an investment-ready project proposal for the basin that is born out of the plan.
Thank you. And maybe just to add to what Beauty mentioned, my name is Ethel Mudenda, also working with WWF. I just wanted to add that you may wish to know that the Cuando River Basin is actually the lifeline of the Cuando Wildlife Dispersal Area, the largest that we have in the world. And so one of the key things that takes place there is the tourism, and it's mostly focused on the giants that we have in the world. We're speaking about the elephants. So there are seriously large numbers of elephants that are actually existing in this basin. And so the Cuando River Basin, the river itself, is the lifeline for this wildlife. So in relation to the plan, most of the activities also were circling around how to enhance ecotourism, because that is the major economic activity that can be derived from there. So part of what the member states also thought of including infrastructure for tourism, this would be hospitality infrastructure, transportation and communication infrastructure, and so it is some of those that are actually bringing out that amount of money. Thank you.
Yes? Oh, sorry. I'll come to you after.
Namaste, my name is Raju Tirwa. I am from Nepal. So thank you so much for wonderful talk show here. So my question is regarding this livelihood promotion. Actually, these livelihood initiatives are only connected to the water resources management or the beyond? Just a very short question.
It's beyond, of course. Water resource or beyond?
No,
It's all the resources.
It's all the resources because the river basin, like Ethel has said, it's more like a lifeline for everything. So it's not just towards the water resources, but it's also the other components as well, ecosystem and biodiversity. As we have mentioned, it's one of the pristine. It's still pristine as it is now, and so the idea is that you have a plan when it's still pristine, so that then it also helps in a more coordinated development, even as the different member states are looking towards development and improving the livelihoods for their people. So it's not just skewed towards water resources development, it's everything. Maybe also what I would speak, and maybe Leonissah you could speak to, is the composition of the national multi-stakeholder committees, the NAMSCs, because from there is where you draw what the focus is from each of the member states.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Beauty. We're still clear, right? Yeah, it's not just about water. I know initially in terms of these river basin organizations, we tend to be water-centric, but I think there's the realization now with the water, energy, food, and ecosystems nexus that we have the multi-sectoral approach to most of the development activities, initiatives that we engage ourselves in. So the National Stakeholders Coordination Committees, we actually call them National Multi-Stakeholders Coordination Committees that are in each riparian state of the Zambezi and of course the Cuando River Basin. The composition is from a multi-sector. You're talking about water doing the coordination, but there's agriculture, there's environment, there's even finance. We have realized that leaving ministries of finance and, of course, the private sector behind, and we are looking for money, then what are you doing? You have to introduce yourselves and what you're doing all over. You need to have them so that they are on board right from the beginning. So we have this multi-sectoral approach. It's fairly a development that is new, but we are making some headway in terms of involving more stakeholders within the Zambezi watercourse.
I just wanted to find out, well, thank you firstly for a brilliant presentation. Nice to have females on the podium. I just wanted to find out, in the current situation we have in the Southern Africa region, the frequency of droughts is really increasing. And I just wanted to find out to what extent the IWRM plan is climate proof, especially considering that you've mentioned that this area is quite pristine. You've got high elephant population. So I'm just wondering in terms of the carrying capacity of that area and the water scarcity issues that, how then do we balance with livelihoods and ensuring that, we're sustaining that environment. So just trying to understand to what extent the IWRM plan takes into consideration some of these challenging climatic situations we're in. Thank you.
I think Beauty can. You think? There.
On the priority areas, actually, we also have cross-cutting issues, and the climate variability came into play. And it's mostly also because the 4 member states are the ones that, even this drought here, have been hardest hit. The time when we were developing, the plan is actually quite recent. It was only launched early this month, on the 6th. So even when we were developing it, we were already bearing the brunt of climate variability. And so it came to the fore, and the need to actually climate-proof it as well. So yes, we have components that speak to the climate variability and the impacts that are caused thereof as well.
Any questions or reflection from the audience? And maybe I can ask my questions. My name is Adina. I'm from CV, but my background is in global and public health. So I was just wondering if you would share any insight of what you think would be the trends in the coming years, and what strategies would you implement for those? What's the top of your mind?
Yes, so for the trends we see, Leonissah will come in, is that the basin being in the southern part of Africa, we are anticipating also an increase population-wise, more especially I think from Angola and Zambia, because Botswana and Namibia have the population growth trends have been quite on the low side, but the two other countries within the basin have been a bit on the moderate higher side. So with the increase in population, we're seeing an increase in terms of demand for resources within the basin, of which water is one of them, and it's becoming scarcity in that area, largely because of the intensities of the droughts. But also just to mention that we look at Angola as a water tower for Southern Africa, in the sense that it has to maintain most of its pristine areas. So we see it to continue to play that role if there is a consolidated coordination in terms of the support towards the management of those areas. And that's where it's very key for us, especially as WWF. We want to see that we don't see those areas being degraded because of the effects that it will have in terms of the other countries that are quite dependent on it, but also supporting the other issues that are arising because of the increase in population, such as the health and sanitation issues that Beauty was raising, but also issues to do with livelihoods, as this also will bring a higher dependency on the natural commodities found in the ecosystem, such as the forest products, including the rivers, as the Zambezi is currently supporting a lot of livelihoods downstream around fishing, agriculture, and so forth. So how do we ensure that it's done in a sustainable manner without really causing to the degradation of the area? So for us, that's what is, those are the trends that we foresee. I don't know, Leonissah.
Just to add a little bit, I think you have put it very well. The trends, mainly we're looking at poverty, increased poverty. You know, it's despite the fact that we're making these efforts to say, okay, let's develop a plan. Developing a plan is to ensure that the poverty levels are reduced through the livelihood projects that can be put in place. But that will take time, and the poverty levels force people to resort to using the natural resources that we are trying to see how we can, save or preserve or use sustainably. So it's a question of ensuring that we address those poverty levels and reduce or eradicate. And what now also is exacerbating the issue is that of the drought that we've had in Southern Africa, and now energy. We have load shedding in the region, and that is now making people try to use alternative sources of energy. Solar is the preserve for those that have good incomes, and so one ends up resorting to use of a charcoal, for example, for cooking. And so the hope is to reverse, but yeah, it's still something that is real.
And also just to add, the last one is also the increase in human-wildlife conflict because of the pressures that we are seeing in terms of population increase, including the increase in wildlife populations, especially the elephants. So there's a conflict which is arising out of the need for the resource, more especially water.
Yeah, thank you. I think it was a minister from Zambia that was raising or highlighting it yesterday with a talk show about groundwater, that who will give the voice for the wildlife if the groundwater is decreasing. So that's, it's very interesting. Yeah. Thank you. Betty, anything you would like to add?
That's fine.
Yeah. So we have 50 seconds left, but do you want to share any last insights or reflections?
Yeah, from our end, as partners in the design and development of the integrated water resource management, that's the CASA, WWF, as well as ZAMCOM. We are quite desirous to bring on board partners that can support not only the financing but also the co-creating of innovative approaches to financing the integrated resource plan in terms of the activities that have been outlined, whether it's through the livelihoods program, the climate sustainability, the governance and the coordination, as well as the building of the sustainability. So we are looking at those are some of the ways in which to promote sustainable conservation, looking at the increased intensities that the region is facing, more especially the SADC region. It's either we have El Nino or we have La Nino, so we are always at a point of anticipating a disaster, but how best do we support communities, including wildlife, to be able to live sustainably, but also be able to absorb some of these shocks that are coming within the region, and also be able to continue with our vision and mission of seeing that the planet's environment is not degraded. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Please, everyone, help me applause these beautiful ladies.